charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917 wasn't meant for this. An act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would do, and threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping his own documents.
So I would say that Trump's attorneys aren't going to be thrilled about the guy admitting to his own crimes in public. But when you're representing the guy who decided to steal classified documents from the White House, then his public comments are probably the least of your worries. Now, right off the bat, Trump tries to curry sympathy from the crowd by drumming up the fact that he's being charged under the Espionage Act, as if to suggest that this is yet another example of the Democrats' hysteria in weaponizing the government against him, using any statutes they could possibly find. But the Espionage Act doesn't only deal with espionage. It was used in this case because it includes willfully withholding national defense information. And given the fact that the National Archives and the FBI attempted over and over and over to get these classified documents back, only to have those efforts rebuffed by Trump himself, that is exactly the appropriate charge in this instance. So I get that Trump is trying to frame this as some desperate effort to take him down with obscure statutes dating back to World War I, but the only desperate effort here is that of Trump pretending that it's the DOJ who's in the wrong here. Notice too how he claims that he was, quote, possessing his own papers. Now, first of all, so that we're clear, that is Donald Trump admitting to the crime. If he were smart, or at least listened to his attorneys, he would shut up, or at a bare minimum, not suggest that classified documents that belong to the federal government were, quote, his own. But he's not smart, and he doesn't listen to his own attorneys, and so what we're left with instead is Donald Trump admitting to his own criminal activity in the immediate aftermath of his own arraignment. And by the way, remember that anything Trump says at any time can be used against him in this upcoming trial for the same case. So if we all recognize this, then you can be sure that the prosecutors did too. And second, on this point of Trump claiming that he was possessing his own papers, small problem, they weren't his. I mean, my God, the guy was hanging on to attack plans against Iran. This isn't his personal diary. It's not his nameplate from his first state dinner. It is top secret national security information, and it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the federal government. He had access to that information while he was president, but remember, he retained those documents after he left office. And once he left office, he became a private citizen, meaning he didn't have the right to access that information anymore. And don't take my word for it, take that of his own former Attorney General Bill Barr.
Now, we can't forget here that this entire thing came about because of reckless conduct of the president. If he had just turned over the documents, which I think every other person in the country would have done, they're the government's documents. They're official records. They're not his personal records. Battle plans for an attack on another country or Defense Department documents about our capabilities are in no universe Donald J. Trump's personal documents. They are the government's documents. This idea that the president has complete authority to declare any document personal is obvious. It's facially ridiculous. That opinion had to do with the distinction between official records, which are records prepared by government agencies for the purpose of government action, and personal documents as opposed to official documents, which are things prepared by the president, such as a diary or notes, which are not used in the government's deliberations. And yes, as to the second class, stuff that the president himself generates, the president has some discretion. But these are official documents. It's inarguable. The president's daily brief provided by the intelligence community is not Donald J. Trump's personal document, period.
So yeah, when even the guy who misrepresented the entire Mueller report to protect Trump thinks that this is an open and shut case, that doesn't exactly bode well for the guy. Trump would go on to suggest that every other president's done the same thing, which is a lie so lazy, well, a lie so lazy that I guess it makes perfect sense that Trump would tell it. Have other presidents and officials mishandled classified documents? Yes. Joe Biden mishandled classified documents as vice president. Mike Pence did the same. The difference, though, is that while those officials voluntarily cooperated with the National Archives and law enforcement as soon as they realized what they'd done, Trump didn't. He ignored requests for classified documents to be returned. He defied subpoenas. He instructed his lawyers to lie in their written attestation. And then he admittedly shared that still classified information with unauthorized individuals. Remember, the only documents that Trump wasn't charged for were the ones that he returned. That standard of not charging for return documents applies across the board. Biden took advantage of it. Pence took advantage of it. The only person who didn't was Trump. And remember, while we're equating what Trump did with what Pence or Biden did, that Trump wasn't charged solely with willful retention of national defense information. That was just part of the indictment. He was also charged with conspiracy to obstruct justice for keeping the documents from the grand jury, charged with withholding a document or record, for moving boxes of classified documents so that attorneys wouldn't be able to find them, charged with corruptly concealing a document or record for attempts to hide boxes of classified information from attorneys, charged with concealing a document in a federal investigation for causing a false certificate to be submitted to the FBI, charged with schemes to conceal for hiding his continued possession of those materials from the FBI and grand jury, charged with false statements and representations for lying to the FBI and grand jury about the results of the search at Mar-a-Lago. So the reason that Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Mike Pence weren't charged with the same crimes is that they didn't commit them, which should go without saying, but apparently it doesn't. And let's be clear, his criminality is so obvious that even some Republicans are finally starting to express some discomfort with what he did, which, for a cult of personality, is a pretty damning testament to what he's done.
The handling of classified materials is a very serious matter, not only from my years as vice president, but also my years on the International Relations Committee. And look, I had a chance to review the indictment over the weekend. And this indictment contains serious charges, and I cannot defend what is alleged. I will tell you, as not only as a former vice president, but also my son's a Marine. My son-in-law is a Navy lieutenant. I mean, the very prospect that what is alleged here took place, creating an opportunity where highly sensitive classified material could have fallen into the wrong hands, even inadvertently, that jeopardizes our national security. It puts at risk the men and women of our armed forces. And as I said, I can't defend what is alleged.
Should he have not just given back the documents to avoid all of this mess to begin with?
Most politicians get in trouble by self-inflicted wounds. Yeah, I mean, he believes he had the right to possess these under the Presidential Records Act. I don't know whether that's accurate or not.
I'm not dismissing it. I'm not condemning it. I'm not a spokesperson, right? And that's my stance, just as a member of Congress. You know, if he becomes president one day, then I'd probably have to comment on it.
You're a military guy. He allegedly had national security information.
It's very problematic. There's a reason I'm not defending it.
This is just to show off. It's just a show off, and it turned out to be right. And that's what makes it so ridiculous that we're here and we're in a situation where there are people in my own party who are blaming DOJ. How about blame him? He did it. He took documents he wasn't supposed to take. He kept them when they asked him back for them. They got a grand jury subpoena. He refused to comply. They raided his home finally because he refused to comply. All of those things were brought on himself, as was this indictment.
For a party predicated on its complete and total fealty to one guy, for these people to come out and refuse to defend his crimes is a testament to just how utterly indefensible his actions are. So Trump will pretend that he's innocent and that everyone else is guilty per usual, but at this point, we can read the writing on the wall, and it says nothing promising for Donald Trump. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.